You are all welcome to the next video, and in this video I'll talk about basic level English curriculum, that is from grade 6 to 8. And this article was prepared by Chandrakant Basal, and this was published on Shiksha Annual Publication 2017. So in abstract it says English is gaining important place in the international arena. It has become a must for the present-day world. It can be taken almost as a necessary asset for the survival in the contemporary world. Without English, diverse knowledge of the world becomes almost impossible. Many countries of the world have taken English language as one of the major parts of their curricula. So far as the context of Nepal is concerned, English is given a top priority. It is taught as a compulsory subject up to the bachelor level of formal education. English has been taught from the very beginning of formal schooling. Government of Nepal has developed the school-level English curricula and has been revising and updating on a regular basis. Under this process, the basic level English curriculum has been revised and updated as a competency-based curriculum. It has been developed as a bridge between the curricula of grades 1 to 5 and grades 9 to 10. This article has tried to introduce some of the major aspects of basic level English curriculum, that is of grade 6 to 8 of Nepal, so as to provide related information to the concerned stakeholders. So, introduction. English is regarded as the main means of communication throughout the world. It is known as the international language since the majority of people all over the world use it for communication. English is taught as well as learned as a foreign language in Nepal. It is assumed that knowledge of English enables our students to communicate their feelings to English speakers, and they can also see a broader vision of the world. It is taught from the very beginning of formal schooling. It is taken as a main medium language for further education. It is also assumed that English is to be taught to make the students able to understand speeches delivered by speakers of English and the books of higher level having English medium. Keeping this in mind, Government of Nepal has provisioned English as a compulsory subject up to the bachelor level of formal education. Curriculum Development Center under Ministry of Education Nepal has developed basic level English curriculum as a competency-based curriculum. It has been developed also as a bridge between the curricula of grades 1 to 5 and grades 9 to 10. It has highlighted 7 of its major features, keeping the very concept of enhancing the communicative as well as functional competences of the learners, mostly on 4 basic skills of language. They are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It has provisioned 6 competences of the students of this level after learning English. Likewise, grade-wise learning outcomes are devised to achieve these competences. In this way, proper scope and sequence of language functions, language, grammar, and credit hours have been made. On the learning facilitation process, some of the major learning principles, learning techniques, classroom activities, and learning resources have been prescribed. Similarly, assessment procedure of all the 4 language skills has been highlighted. Finally, the curriculum also has prescribed an elaboration matrix of the contents with their possible classroom activities, evaluation procedures, and estimated periods. So the curriculum has following structure. In the words, its main components are as follows: introduction, competency, learning outcomes, scope and sequence, learning facilitation process, assessment, elaboration matrix. So the major features of the curriculum. Language learning is regarded as a skill rather than knowledge. If an unskilled technician is deployed in an automobile workshop, nothing can be expected from him or her. In the same way, a person who has not developed all the 4 skills of language cannot be considered as a good user of the language. The case of learning English is the same. Keeping this very concept in mind, the curriculum has emphasized the development of four skills in the students. Not only this, but also the curriculum presents the things that can be done through language as functions, such as greeting, apologizing, expressing likes and dislikes, comparing, inviting and replying, describing habits, etc. Functions are expressed by different structures and words in the English language. Structures, vocabulary, and grammatical items have been selected to meet the needs of basic level students. The curriculum includes the learning outcomes under different skills, scope, and sequence, learning facilitation process with important learning principles, learning techniques, classroom activities, and learning resources. It has prescribed a variety of techniques, activities, and resources which suit the classroom situation and the academic level of the students. This curriculum also presents information and basic guidelines for student assessment. It focuses on assessing students following communicative approach. This approach assumes to assess the students in terms of how they use language and not what they know about the language. Similarly, it has highlighted the importance of assessment of the four skills. They are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In the district level English of grade 8, 75% of the total marks is allocated to reading and writing and 25% to listening and speaking. Keeping the two main purposes of teaching English in school level, that is to enable pupils to exchange ideas with people of any nationality who speak or write English and to expose them to the vast treasures of knowledge and pleasure available in both printed and electronic forms. The present basic level English curriculum has highlighted some of the basic aspects of language teaching and learning as its important features. The main points that the curriculum has presented as its important features are as follows. First, careful gradation and sequencing of four language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. 2. Setting up the common language competencies for basic level. 3. Presentation of language functions with emphasis on using them for communication. 4. Seeking for additional resource materials for extensive practice. Prescription of subject matters to practice the language skills from broader spectrum. Expectation of basing students' evaluation on the objectives of language skills outlined in the curriculum. Provisioning of alternative test items differently able students. So this curriculum talks about competences. Competency, the term originally used in the curriculum of technical subjects, can be defined as per the context of a country or society. It is also taken as the amalgamation of knowledge. So this is the mixing of knowledge, skill, attitude, ability, and willingness required for a person to lead a practical and as well as social life. Competency in a person can be ensured from character, way of thinking, behavioral change, and other specific skills and knowledge through learning. Keeping the above mentioned concept of competency in mind, the present basic level curriculum has been developed. Similarly, on the basis of level-wise competences, the subsequent competences have been designed. It has provisioned 6 competences of the students of this level after learning English. It means the curriculum has the expectation of developing the following competences in students after teaching and learning of English. Listen and comprehend spoken English in a variety of personal, social, and academic contexts. Communicate in spoken English in a variety of personal, social, and academic contexts. Comprehend written English in personal, social, and academic contexts. Communicate in written English in a variety of personal, social, and academic contexts. Develop skills and competences to use English as a medium for further studies and a tool for obtaining information and enjoyment. Learn to think creatively and critically to develop their language skills by promoting tolerance, inclusiveness, and socio-cultural harmony. So I'm not talking about these things. And the curriculum talks about the learning facilitation process. Language learning takes place in a real life-like situation. To make language learning effective, Certain learning principles, learning techniques, classroom activities, and learning resources are to be taken into consideration. Present basic level English curriculum has prescribed some of the important learning principles or techniques, classroom activities, and learning resources for making students' learning lively as well as achieving the concerned competencies. The curriculum has prescribed 11 learning principles, 6 learning techniques, and 20 classroom activities for developing or enhancing the language skills of the learners. Similarly, it has highlighted the importance of textbook, teacher's guide, cassette, CD, additional reading materials, computers, multimedia projector, flashcards, chalkboard, etc. as a part and parcel of teaching. The forthcoming sections show the learning principles, learning techniques, classroom activities, and the learning resources provision of the present English curriculum at basic level. So the learning principles in the curriculum, these are very important. How the learning should happen, this has given these provisions here. As mentioned above, the curriculum has provisioned 11 learning principles for making learning of English effective and lively. Those principles are as follows. Learning should be student-centered, focusing on individual abilities. Measures should be adopted to make classroom activities inclusive education. Pair work and individual participation should be well facilitated. Pair work and individual participation. Use of mother tongue in the classroom should be minimized as far as possible. To avoid the use of mother tongue, gestures, games, pictures, and role playing should be used. So it gives importance that use of mother tongue should be minimized as far as possible. This doesn't say this does not deny the use of mother tongue in the language classroom, but it says it should be minimized. Listening and speaking practice or tasks should be followed by written tasks and not the vice versa. So listening and speaking practice should be followed by written and written tasks. So this should not be vice versa. So speaking first, then written tasks. Spelling and punctuation marks should be considered equally as important as grammar. Information gap activities and recycle patterns should be organized to avoid real and rote memorization. Classroom activities should encourage integrated skill activities. Task-based activities should be encouraged to gain language competency. Multimedia should be utilized as far as possible. There will be approximately 175 periods, each of 45 minutes. However, the number of periods can be altered to adjust the needs by keeping strictly within the boundary of 131.25 hours. Learning techniques. The major learning techniques prescribed in the curriculum are use of picture cues in conducting classroom activities, use of language games, puzzles, and chants, use of pictures, graphs, guidelines, cues, clues for production, and use of multimedia, opportunity for creativity and competition, creative activities to reinforce language learning, assigned project work to enhance language competency. And there are several classroom activities prescribed. They are answering questions orally, storytelling or retelling, role play, demonstration, pair work, project work, group discussion, presentation, reading aloud, silent reading, completing sentences, filling the blanks in a closed exercise, matching, copying into answer books, answering comprehension questions, matching meanings with words, dictation, finding the odd one out, following instructions, language games, answering questions, describing a given picture, parallel writing, listen and carry out different activities. The above mentioned activities are only indicative. The teachers are expected to devise several such activities depending on the needs of the students and the nature of the learning items. So learning resources. The curriculum anticipates that the learners use various learning materials available in printed, digital, audio, as well as visual formats to enhance their learning. Some of the examples are textbook, teacher's guide, audio cassette or CD, additional reading materials, computers, multimedia projector, flashcards, picture, chalkboard, etc. Now the assessment of the course. Assessment is considered as an integral part of language learning, so the present curriculum includes information and guidelines for student assessment. It focuses on assessing the students' following communicative approach. If this approach seems to assess students in terms of how they use English, not what they know about the language or the English language. Similarly, it has highlighted the importance of assessment of the four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It means the assessment procedure of all the four language skills has been highlighted in the curriculum. That is the provision of district level examination at the end of grade 8. In the district level examination, 75% of the total marks is allocated to reading and writing, whereas 25% marks is allocated to listening and speaking. According to the curriculum, there will be a terminal examination covering 60%, and the remaining 40% will be done through continuous assessment system in grade 6 and 7. CAS should be done on the basis of classroom participation, plus unit tests, use of expressions learned in the class, project work, etc. This will take place in both formal and informal modes. The whole assessment procedures of these two grades will be based on teacher-made tests. The practice of listening and speaking and its assessment should take place on a regular basis. It is assumed that out of 25% practical tests, 15 marks are allocated for terminal tests and the remaining 10% are given for CAS. The teachers are given full responsibility to give due focus on designing the type and number of questions for listening and speaking skills. The curriculum has prescribed a final terminal test as per the provision made in the table of specifications. Oral examinations, oral comprehension tests, as well as dictation will also be used in addition to the usual exercises provided in the textbook. The use of pictures will prove to be highly motivating and reliable for composition work. It also has paid attention to differently able students and assumes to design specific assessment tools to such students. The provision of assessing different language skills as well as of district level examination of grade 8 according to curriculum is as follows. So it is saying assessing listening and speaking, assessing reading and writing, district level examinations, it has been already discussed, and there is the table of specifications. So listening is of 10 marks, speaking 15, reading is 40, and writing is 35. And there will be this kind of type of questions will be asked, and I would like to request you all to go through the curriculum once and be confident on this kind of distribution of the marks and the type of questions that we can be asked. And now the conclusion. The basic level English curriculum is designed for the students who are learning English for general and practical purposes. It can also be used successfully with learners from different walks of life. Functions given in grade 6 to 8 are for those who have already completed grade 5. Curriculum has been prepared in order to make grade 6 to 8 courses more applicable to the society, making the learners as the competent users of English. There is a progression of difficulty levels starting from junior to senior grades, the basic level. The curriculum also includes learning outcomes and skills and content areas, and the scope and sequence are specifying the allocation of periods for each unit. The principles of teaching English, teaching techniques, classroom activities, learning resources, and other important information are also provided. Similarly, assessment procedure of all the four language skills have been highlighted. The curriculum has clearly presented basic guidelines for conducting continuous assessment system as well as a standardized terminal test. Table of specification for administering the DLE exam has also been prescribed. Besides all this provision, there is an elaboration matrix of this curriculum showing language functions, language grammar, topics, activities, evaluation procedures, and the credit asked for the designers of the curriculum materials. This curriculum is considered as a foundation for enhancing the basic linguistic competence of the concerned students if due attention is paid on its proper implementation. So after this shows the references, and the references are basically the curriculum of different labels. So I'd like to request you all to see those curriculums, and thank you so much for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel and I will be bringing you more videos. Thank you. Bye for now.